Hello YouTube, or more likely just the 12 total people who are going to click on this video. I would like to get better at my editing skills, and I thought the best way to do that would be editing just some YouTube videos talking about stuff I'd like. So this first one, I would like to talk about Security Breach. I enjoyed the game quite a lot and have plenty of theories and ideas that I'd like to just ramble on about, so that's what I'm going to start with. First off, let's go with the whole Vanny-Vanessa thing. I do think Vanny and Vanessa are the same person. Throughout the game, obviously, you're not really meant to know, and I think it is the CDs that prove they're the same person. Which, ironically, people think it's the opposite, and it proves that they're separate people. I do not think so. I think they are, in fact, the same person. Obviously, it is an assumption to make that the CDs are about Vanessa and then also Vanny. I have seen that thing floating around that it might be Gregory. I think that's a strange assumption to make. There's no reason for Gregory to not speak in these moments, and also several of the things referenced don't make any sense when applied to Gregory, and just really only make sense when applied to Vanessa, including two key things that carry between the seeming two people. That being Vanessa's parents and what happened with the divorce, or at least what supposedly happened with the divorce, as well as mentioning of creating the Vanny Bunny suit. There are some things that are a little odd at first glance, perhaps. I understand people saying it seems like 46, who's presumed to be Vanny, the therapists are talking to like a child. I get it. For me, it came across a bit more like, because Vanny never responds, these therapists want to make sure that what they are saying is as clear as possible, because they're not getting much of a response back to know that what they're saying is being received. So I think that plays into it a fair bit. Another thing is, in one of the later on CDs, one of the therapists mentions security footage of, I think, Vanessa in the Pizzaplex. People who use this as evidence that Vanny and Vanessa are separate people point to the therapist pointing out bunny ears. The thing is, we don't know what they're looking at here. We only know what the therapist is saying, which isn't a lot about what this security cam footage looks like. So, my assumption or idea is that it's either Burn Trap that they're seeing, because if he's in shadow, you just see a little bunny ear. You don't know that he's a walking corpse. Or it's just that Vanessa has the Vanny mask not on, she just has it with her, and they're like, huh, those look like bunny ears. I don't think anything about it is indicating Vanessa speaking to Vanny. I do want to touch on something else Daco mentioned in one of his videos in relation to the CDs, that being the idea that Elizabeth Afton is possessing or somehow attached to Vanessa, which is why Vanessa seemingly at some point lied about her parents in past. Personally, I don't think this is the case. Daco makes a pretty good argument for it, but I just don't think Elizabeth Afton is still around. She could be, we'll get to that later with the whole blob business, but I don't think she is, and I don't know how in the world she would have ended up attached to Vanessa. Because presumably, Vanessa, a long time ago, in regards to the CDs, told the therapist this fake story about her life, which would have been well before going to the Pizzaplex, so then well before going anywhere near where Elizabeth Afton, if her spirit's still around, would be. So I don't think she's involved with that at all. Obviously, though, Vanessa lied about this whole thing for some reason, and her mentioning her dad's name is Bill, it's pretty clear that it's meant to be William Afton. My guess is that this was a desperate attempt of hers to try and get help. Obviously, she can't directly go against what Afton wants. My assumption even is that when she's Vanny, she doesn't have any control over herself. That's entirely Afton. But as Vanessa, she's just influenced, so she can seed out this idea of, oh, I'm being manipulated by an authoritative figure over me. Clearly, it doesn't end up working out for her, and it probably is what gets her therapists killed. But yeah, that's my explanation for what that whole lying business is about. One more note about Vanessa that's more of a personal idea that I haven't seen other people talk about, but I haven't, looked, so maybe other people have mentioned this. I think Vanessa created the Princess Quest games. It would make sense if she was working on VR, that she was able to sneak it into the mobile port of VR, because VR exists in the FNAF universe. And then, with the amount of references to the arcade machines, and the one specifically even saying it was ported from mobile, it makes me think this was another attempt by Vanessa to be able to free herself somehow, by building these arcade machines that could free her were someone to completely go all the way through them. This one is kind of shaky. I don't know how she would be able to do this with Afton presumably always being able to tell what she's doing to some level. My idea there is that's why she has to disguise what the games are, but that kind of falls a bit apart with the third one when it's just very clearly VR, but you know, maybe Afton's not suspecting anything with that directly. I also don't know how in the world she figured out that doing all this would let someone free her mind. Not sure. I guess if it's code, then coding a new thing would work somehow? It is Five Nights at Freddy's. Just about anything is gonna be able to work, probably. I just do admit this idea of mine is a little bit shaky, but I also don't know who else would make the Princess Quest machines. And they definitely exist in universe. They're not like just a gameplay thing. There's so many different duffel bags that make references to them that there's no way it doesn't exist for this express purpose. So it must be Vanessa who made them, even if it seems a little shaky how she would manage to. Another thing I have noted down, I mentioned Burn Trap. I've seen some people that are just confused about him, and I think it's not even this isn't even a theory, this is just what's canon. People seem to think, some people seem to think that it's retconning, and that he actually survived FNAF 6, and Ultimate Custom Night isn't his hell, or he got out of it, or something. No, he's definitely still there, and definitely still dead. I thought this was clear when Burn Trap has purple eyes and this purple hacking ability, that Burn Trap is meant to be the Glitch Trap version of Afton. This is his AI copy, it is not the original William Afton. He's still dead. This is Glitch Trap possessing his own dead body for some reason? Sentimental value, I guess? Who knows? William Afton is a strange individual. He can do what he wants if this is what he wants to do. But yeah, they definitely did not retcon William Afton into surviving. He's definitely dead. Let's see what's next in my notes. Gregory. So, I like MatPat. I do think his Gregbot idea is entirely wrong. I do not think it is correct, and I think it's kind of clearly not correct. My biggest problem with the theory: Matt does not give a timeline for when any of the building of Gregory, or when did this happen, basically. Matt doesn't say anything about that. He just puts forward how Gregory could be a robot based on some pretty weak circumstantial evidence. The timeline is my biggest problem, because just ask the question, when did William Afton build this crying child robot in this supposed theory? So let's start by laying out what the timeline would be, when he couldn't have and when he could have. First, we know there's a 30-year stretch of time where he's stuck in the Springlock suit in a derelict room before they find him and put him in Fazbear Frights. Going off of, I think, the accepted timeline, I don't know if there's another one, but in 2023 is when that takes place. That's when he finally gets out, survives the fire of the Fazbear Frights building, and then seemingly spends several years stuck having to, build a new suit with scraps. It doesn't seem like, in that time, if he can't build himself a better body, that he would be able to build a lifelike child robot. I also say several years because he seems way different and worn down compared to how he did as Springtrap. So I would assume it takes quite a long time for him to do all that, especially with having to hide while doing all that sort of stuff. Plus, Henry had to get the FNAF 6 pizzeria built, and he clearly had it built with specific specifications in mind, so that probably took several years. Then he dies, like I said, he does die in the fire in FNAF 6. He is gone. So then there's quite a few more years where nothing's going on with him, because his AI copy is still stuck in some random code. I think that Help Wanted takes place really close to Security Breach. It seems to kind of line up that way based off of the therapist CDs. And also, there are locations, I think from... maybe it wasn't just the Help Wanted DLC, I don't know. There are several locations that you can find in the Pizzaplex, which would imply to me that they based those off of the Pizzaplex, you know, like references, that sort of thing. So, because the Pizzaplex is also built on top of the FNAF 6 pizzeria, I would guess that Help Wanted and Security Breach probably take place in the late 2030s, like maybe mid-2030s, but it's probably getting close to 2040 by the time Security Breach takes place in the timeline. So when Help Wanted happens and Vanessa ends up taking over, because I do think she is, that is a time where potentially a Gregbot Crying Child robot could be built. My problem then with that idea is neither Vanessa nor Vanny seem to recognize Gregory, which would be strange if they were the ones who built him. This leaves a time before William Afton ended up as Springtrap, which would be prior to 1993, I think. Reasonably, I think anywhere in this time, after the Crying Child dies, obviously, he would be able and willing to build a robot of him. I think it would make the most sense that he did it in 1983 when his son died. I don't know why he would do it later on. It seems weird, like 4 years later, be like, oh yeah, I should get around to rebuilding my son as a robot. I think it just makes sense that he would have done it in 1983. So then, how come every other bot we've seen that lasts for roughly the same amount of time, like both Molten Freddy and Scrap Baby, are scraps? Like, they're kind of not in great condition. Why would Gregory be completely okay all the way even further past those guys? I don't think that makes any sense. It's so far back. Maybe if he was in some storage somewhere and didn't get activated until recently, but then, why? Why would... It seems random, and just, I don't know that there's enough to say that, yeah, this is what happened. Because it's such a long span of time that he would have to be in perfect condition. Like, he'd be a very unique robot. How in the world does he know how to fix himself and find all the parts? That just seems quite ridiculous to me. Now, my brother did have a funny idea, which is that the reveal in the next game, or the DLC, or whatever, is that the FNAF 4 box was holding the Gregory robot. I don't know that this would work all that well, lore-wise. Like I just pointed out reasons, it seems crazy to me that that would happen, but that is a really funny idea, so I wouldn't complain if that's what happened. Other points I hear a lot, the two big ones are he can get inside of the recharge station while in Freddy, and just the one time when Moon knocks Freddy out. And also when Vanny gets near, his eyes have that certain effect over it. First, with the recharge station, I don't understand thinking this is strange. We don't know how the recharge station works. I don't know why anyone would assume they must be dangerous for a human to be inside of. Especially because during the game, you're assuming Gregory is a human. Like, sure, maybe afterwards you can start assuming he's a robot, but playing it, seeing a presumed human hop in the machine, you go, oh, okay, clearly it's not unsafe to be inside of. And I don't know why it would be. Like, it's like how wireless charging isn't just unsafe by being next to a wireless charger. That was my guess. Like, it's just transferring into Freddy. It doesn't matter that Gregory's in there, because it's not like Gregory is holding an exposed wire. I understand people being like, oh, clearly this proves he must be a robot. His eyes are doing the effect thing. I don't think so. Like, for me, it proves he's not. Like, every other robot, other than presumably Roxy, is affected by this to where then they don't see Vanny. Why would Gregory, being a robot who presumably is older than all of these others, still be able to see Vanny? I don't understand that at all. I think that doesn't make sense. I think the effect is simply meant to be like a technological illusion disc eye thing. Like, it's just messing with his eyes. I do not think it is meant to indicate he's a robot, because I don't think it makes any sense that he is one. Oh, what's this? Ah, MatPat has uploaded another video, and he addresses some of the Gregbot stuff in it. So let's just take a look and see if any of his points I think are fair, or if he addresses any of the things I wanted him to regarding the timeline. So one of the first things is he brings up some of the unused dialogue. I do agree, I don't think unused dialogue should count towards theory making, because it's unused. This isn't what the creators intend for you to see and use. So, I do think you can't use the alternate dialogue of Freddy saying that Gregory is bleeding. I think making this assumption that, oh, the change clearly must mean something related to the crying child, or whatever, instead of just being a change so that they don't mention blood. That just seems strange, and MatPat's like, haha, gotcha, is bringing up the unused line of dialogue that seems like I think it would be alternate dialogue when you see the blob, where Freddy mentions recognizing Gregory. Because apparently Freddy recognizing Gregory means that Gregory's a robot? Like, I feel like he didn't explain that very well. Another thing, like, with that too, is he points out Chica can know Gregory's name before, like, Vanessa, we know for sure, learns it. Which, I just don't know about that. Like, obviously, you could have a thing in the game where Chica only starts saying the lines that have Gregory's name in them after Vanessa presumably learns Gregory's name. But, like, no one cares that much, so I don't know why you would go to the trouble. So I don't think you can consider that meaning anything, because I don't think it's a detail. I think it's just they didn't care to do a small specific thing in the game that no one really cares about. Matt's the first person I've seen even mention it. Like, it's such a small thing. I don't think it has any lore implications. He makes a strange point where he brings up Charlie. I didn't know a lot about Charlie in the books, but he mentions of how Charlie works. And the strangest thing to me is he's bringing up that Charlie doesn't know that she's a robot for a good portion of the books, or whichever book it is she learns that in, implying that Gregory doesn't know that he is a robot, which contradicts his own theory where he says Gregory has been repairing himself. So I find that very confusing, and like, Gregory would definitely by now, if he is a robot, would have to know in order to still be functional. So I found that quite strange that MatPat seemed to kind of mess that up. I also don't understand, he mentioned Freddy saying that Gregory looks different after getting Roxy's eyes. I don't know why this means anything. I don't understand why this means anything to Matt. Of course Greg's gonna look different to Freddy, because Freddy has new eyeballs that see things differently. Like, I find it strange to use this as evidence. It's not at all as concrete as Matt seems to think it is. Matt does bring up the illusion disc thing, but like as kind of more supporting his side, and confusingly to me, with along mentioning all that, he brings up this idea that Roxy can see, or presumably Roxy can see Vanny, because her eyes are newer. Vanny's whatever thing is set to older models. So why in the world would Gregory be able to see her? Presumably Gregory would be older than all of them. He definitely would have to be not as new as Roxy's eyes, so how in the world can he see Vanny? Like, I think Matt did not think that one through very well. The last thing it made no sense to me is pointing out in the, like, last photograph thing of the Princess Quest ending, Gregory has a little novelty ice cream pop that he's eating. We see them in the game. We know he just has a Glamrock Freddy ice pop because Glamrock Freddy is his boy. It's his dad. Like, of course he has a Glamrock Freddy ice pop. I don't know why you're going, oh, look, it's Golden Freddy. Why in the world? That doesn't make any sense. It's so... oh, man, it's so weird. But yeah, I just think MatPat didn't do a very good job of defending his theory. I think it's weird he thinks it's, like, for sure the best way to explain things, because I don't think it is. I think it's built on a lot of strange leaps in logic that don't end up explaining things. Oh, and a final point that I probably should have brought up earlier, but Matt definitely seems to be just ignoring, is that if William Afton went to all this trouble to build a robot version of his dead son, why in the world would he be trying to kill that robot version in this game? It doesn't make any sense. Like, maybe you could make the argument at first that Vanny and Vanessa are just acting of their own accord, don't know who Gregory is, and that's why they're trying to kill him. But then, in the Afton ending, he actively is trying to kill you. When he hacks Freddy, Freddy attacks you. He sends the other 3 Glamrock animatronics after you. He is trying to kill you. Why would he be doing this if he wanted to keep his son alive in some form? Why is he now trying to kill him? That seems very bizarre to me and doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. I do not get it. So then, what's my version of events? I think the leave ending, the default one, where we just see that he's homeless, I think that tells us everything. I think Gregory is just a homeless kid who snuck in. My guess would be, like, you know, childlike hubris of, oh, all these kids are disappearing, I want to solve what's going on. Like, kids are like that, especially in media. Kids just do this sort of stuff all the time. It reminds me of the Goonies. This would explain why he's sneaky, why he's, like, searching around backstage, apparently, and why he doesn't trust Vanessa. Like, even regardless of his status as a robot or a homeless child, he doesn't want to get caught, because he doesn't want to get turned over to the police, because if he's a robot, that's a big problem. If he's homeless, clearly he already doesn't trust the police if he's choosing to be homeless and not going to them. So, that's why I would think he doesn't want to get caught. I don't think he even knows that he'll get killed by Vanessa. He doesn't trust her because he'll get turned over to the police. Let's see what's next. Okay. I've seen a lot of ideas going around that Michael is possessing Glamrock Freddy. Or, like, attached to him in some way. I don't get this one, honestly. I don't think there's really much that indicates this. Like, the most is his, like, purposefully kind of off dialogue when you're descending down under the FNAF 6 pizzeria. Otherwise, it just seems like, oh, that would be cool if he was Glamrock Freddy. I don't think he is. I think Michael is simply just gone. There's no evidence that Henry is still around. I have established that William is definitely not still around, like, not the original soul of William Afton. So I don't get why Michael Afton would be the one of these 3 still, like, human-ish people to stick around. Especially because if Michael thought he had more to do, he wouldn't have died or chosen to die in FNAF 6. So I don't get why his soul would still be sticking around. I think it seems like the reason souls stick around in the FNAF universe is having some sort of goal. A lot of the time it's been vengeance. William Afton's just seems like he just wants to stick around forever, because he's weird, I guess. The puppet, like, wants to help. Michael stuck around because he was trying to get to his father. In FNAF 6, for all he knows, he's done that. He's done. So I don't know why he would still be hanging around. I also, therefore, don't think he had anything to do with Glamrock Freddy being on Gregory's side and not trying to kill him until possessed by Afton, which isn't even obviously canon anyway, but anyway. I think they made it plenty clear that the reason Glamrock Freddy isn't trying to kill Gregory is because of just this random glitch at the beginning. I don't even think Gregory caused the glitch. I didn't mention that earlier. I think it's just meant to be that he glitches out. The CDs mention it, like, Afton's messed up the systems, clearly. I wouldn't be surprised if Freddy glitches out. And I think that's all it is. He glitches out, he can't connect to the main network, even later, after you find him all, like, head off in the parts and service room. He does the little grammar function error joke. He clearly isn't still connected to everything, and that's why he's on your side, because he's not connected to this main network where William Afton, or maybe Vanny, whoever can, like, control them tell him what to do against their programming. Can't do it to him because he's not connected to that. I think it's just that simple. I don't think there's any Michael Afton nonsense or shenanigans. I think it's simply he's disconnected from it. He's just a sentient AI robot, because they have those now. Nothing more than that. Moving on to a next thing. Monty and Glamrock Bonnie. I understand wanting to sort of connect Glamrock Bonnie to other events, because, you know, fun of theorizing is having things connect in different places. I do not think that's what's up. I do think it is just simply that Monty killed Bonnie. We know very little about Glamrock Bonnie, and the little we know just indicate that's what happened. We don't know a ton about Monty either, but what we do know indicates he probably would want to do that to Glamrock Bonnie. The biggest thing is in his arcade machine, the golf one. At the very end, he is the one on center stage and Freddy is in the trash. That seems like it's meant to indicate that, yeah, he does in fact want to be the star of the show, and that he probably would be willing to take it by force. I can get wanting to connect it to, like, Vanny and Vanessa, because I do understand wishing they had more direct story stuff, but there's nothing at all that's indicating that. The closest thing that I think you can get is that Monty is given claws to play the bass better, so it could be assumed that Bonnie probably had something like that, and maybe the claws that we see Burntrap have are from Bonnie. Now, I don't understand why Vanny or Vanessa, whoever did it, supposedly, in this idea, would have completely destroyed Glamrock Bonnie in order to do that. I would think you would just be able to be like, hey, Bonnie, I need these to do some maintenance or something, or, we have a problem with them, I'm gonna need to take them. I don't think you need to completely destroy him, and I also don't even think that's correct anyway. Regardless of anything, obviously he must be very badly destroyed, and it must be his shell that's destroyed, because any endoskeleton can be any other Glamrock animatronic. We know that from what Freddy says down in the basement when you bring him down there. So, Bonnie must be, like, completely shell destroyed. That's much harder to replace than just the endoskeleton. And the only thing, like, indicating anyone would be able to do that, other than what Gregory does by just launching things at animatronics and launching them into things. Oh boy. But Monty is the only one we've seen be able to perform any kind of destruction. So, it just makes the most sense that he did it to Glamrock Bonnie. I don't think it needs to connect to the wider story. It's just that he did that. A small thing I haven't seen anyone point out, maybe people have, I haven't looked very hard, but in the YouTube comments of the videos I've watched, people haven't pointed it out. But down when you're in the kitchen area, there's the whole, like, mess hall looking area that's all dark, it's got a few bots in there. I'm surprised no one has talked about it, because it looks like there was a massive struggle in there. And because down here is where you find all these duffel bags mentioning that there's this employee meeting party, whatever it was, and they're all down there saying, yeah, hey, come here at the right time, you're all required to be there. It very clearly, like, with knowing that, and knowing that this room looks like there was a huge struggle in there, and if you look at the ground, it looks like there's dried blood. I think a whole bunch of employees were murdered. I don't know why. It seems strange to me that you would need to murder your employees instead of just firing them and letting them go. I don't even know what it would, like, if Vanessa did it, I don't know why. Like, why would she be doing that? Why would Afton want to be doing that? It's very strange, and I don't know what it means, but that's what it looks like. This, along with me being convinced that Monty did simply kill Glamrock Bonnie, makes me think that a good portion of the duffel bags and just general lore, like minor bits of lore you find around the Pizzaplex, are just meant to flesh out the building and its characters. I am assuming we are going to spend more time in the Pizzaplex with the Glamrock animatronics, either in just DLC, maybe even in a sequel. I think we're going to spend more time with them. I think this is part of that. I do not think everything has to connect back just to the Afton Vanny story. I think things can branch out, and I think that's what they're doing. I don't think everything is answered right now because, well, things aren't supposed to be answered right now. This isn't the last game. This is a building story. So not everything connects to just one central point because it's all gonna expand outward. I've seen people complain that it's like that, or that they think everything is supposed to be all connected to one central thing, and I don't think it is. And I think that's kind of an issue people have run into, of just trying to fit everything together like they're all puzzle pieces for one puzzle, but I think they're just individual interesting pictures, to finish that visualization. Now, there are still things I don't really have an explanation for. The big one, starting off, is the blob. I don't think we're meant to know what is up with the blob yet. Like, it comes across to me sort of like the end of Sister Location, where we know Ennard's about, and we know Michael is alive but dead, but we have no clue where that goes. I think it's kind of like that. The blob is... it appears at the end of this story bit, and we don't know a lot about it because we're gonna learn more eventually, but not yet. Bit of a cliffhanger type thing. I don't think we're handed all the keys yet to unlocking what it's about, and I think that's fine. I don't think we need to learn every little thing just in this game. Like, there's gonna be DLC probably be a sequel. We have plenty other areas that we can probably learn what's up with this blob thing. Now, it definitely does beg some very weird questions, I'll say that. I don't understand why the animatronics that are in it. I don't get what's up with the lights being on. Like, is it souls? Does babies not having lights mean that Elizabeth Afton isn't around anymore? Because I don't think she's attached to Vanessa. I guess she could have attached to Vanessa late, but then I don't think anything really indicates that other than superficial similarities in appearance between the two. I don't know. The blob is definitely confusing, but I think it's a mystery that's specifically a mystery, not the sort of thing where people seem to accuse it of being a mystery because Steel Wool, like, just didn't care and didn't want to finish it or something. I don't know. Like, people seem very dumb about blaming Steel Wool for all this nonsense. Another thing, I don't think Gregory is the crying child, but it does seem deliberate that he looks similar. I couldn't tell you why. Maybe it does in fact mean nothing, or maybe it's meant to be more of a symbolic thing. I don't know. Another thing, in the files, I haven't like verified this, but I think in the files, the name of the sprites for the princess in Princess Quest is Cassidy. I don't know how much, like, again, like, this is file stuff. I don't know how much we can really judge things based off of that, but that seems very deliberate. So I do wonder what's up with that. I don't know what it means. Kind of strange. Especially because it would be Cassidy being a bit more helpful rather than just super vengeful. And I do think it would be an interesting explanation for the blob to be Cassidy sort of forcing spirits to help her in this sort of revenge whatever thing. But I don't know. Very strange stuff. Don't have an explanation. That's what this section is. Hi, Future Alicia here. MapPack can get videos out a lot faster than me. I'm just a college girl doing this in her free time. But I did want to put in really quick right this spot. I do like his idea for how Cassidy ended up in the Princess Quest machine. Like the whole soul fuse thing, whatever. I don't know how compatible it is with my Vanessa built the machines idea, but I think both are probably true, so I guess they have to be compatible. Just wanted to put that in real quick. I like his idea. Moving on. The last thing is, the wall cipher is confusing to me, because I guess it's talking about just the game as a whole, but I don't understand its significance. Like, clearly Steel Wool, this was something they were specific on. Like, it's a hidden cipher in a hidden room. The way to solve the ciphers, you have to go through the promotional stuff. Like, this was a very hidden, specific thing, and I don't really get it. I'm wondering if this was one we're sort of meant to be able to figure out. Maybe we'll learn more about it in DLC, sequel, whatever. Who knows? Steel Wool probably knows. For now, I don't. It's just a little beyond me. So all that's pretty much all my thoughts regarding the lore and theories and stuff for this game. As for the game itself, I said I really liked it. For me, I didn't have crazy expectations, because I only vaguely remembered trailers, and most of what I remembered is just cool environments. So really, I think what I was expecting was just being able to explore this cool mall. And it did end up being quite cool. I enjoyed exploring it all around. I remember going into the ending, the first, like, 6 a.m. ending type thing, being like, man, is this really it? I hope there's a stay thing. And then when there was, I was so excited. And then I just had a blast going around, finding all the, like, secrets and stuff, finding the CDs. It was a great time. I understand why people don't like some of the aspects of the game. Like, aside from glitches, obviously glitches aren't the best, especially, like, the game halting ones. And I can understand that souring your experience. I didn't happen to experience very many, which was fortunate, and I had a great time. The bugs I did experience were just kind of silly ones, or ones where it's like, whatever, you know? They're for me, my experience was less buggy than any Bethesda game I have played, so I was able to do just fine going through this game. I liked the style as well. I understand that the lack of auto-saving and having to go to a save station every time can be annoying. I played some of Alien Isolation before. I didn't get very far because the game terrifies me. But it was, you know, like that. That game, you have to get to save stations and there aren't auto-saves in between. And it's annoying if you mess up and have to start way back. But it's just a style of game. I don't think you can fault Security Breach for choosing a style of game and doing it, you know? I do think people are overall just too harsh on the game, especially because Steelwool had delayed it already, like, quite a lot. Both Sony definitely probably wanted to get this game out, and fans were not happy with the delays. Like, people wanted this game. Steelwool had a decision to make. I think, with how popular the game is and how generally well received the game is, they did a good job. And I also think people just kind of forget Steelwool hasn't done something like this before. They said so. This was a pretty big project to be undertaking, and I think they executed on it quite well. The fact that you don't have loading screens, like, obviously the elevators load for a while, but you don't have loading screens. You start the game, and then you go on through. Like, at most, you got your menu, but I think other games, like God of War doesn't have loading screens, but you still have menus. I don't know. I quite liked it. I think Steelwool did a pretty impressive and good job, especially seeing that it probably is going to get just better as they spend more time fixing things. It is a good game. It'll be a less buggy good game. I had a great time. And I also, like, having gone through all my theories thing and mentioning at the end there that I think things are more about fleshing things out than all connecting to one central linear story. I've seen people complain about that, where it seems like, oh, these parts don't all connect together. I don't think they're meant to. You know, I think things are being fleshed out. Now, I could be wrong, and I could end up being annoyed myself with Steelwool if, like, in DLC or a sequel, things are meant to be connected together and they just aren't really fitting. But I don't think that's where they're going, so I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt for now. There's something, though, that all of this has been distracting us from, and that's the real theory and question we gotta be asking about these games. Why are the Aftons British? Did William Afton come over here? When? Why? Did his parents do it? How have they retained their accents so well? Both Elizabeth and Mike.